So welcome everyone. My name is Jenny and I am the Senior Director of Events at Superposition Toronto. We are a student-led nonprofit dedicated to bridging the gender gap in STEM through creating educational opportunities and supportive communities. So right now you're joining us for the STEM University Programs Expo. And this is the Canadian session and it will be led by Lauren as well as our Canadian panelists. So I'm going to pass it on to her now and we can start off with some introductions.
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren. I'm a grade 11 student and I'm a podcast host for Superposition Toronto. I am incredibly excited to be moderating this. The way it's going to work is we have some questions we'll be asking our panelists and they will respond. And later on there will be breakout rooms where you can have one-on-one discussions with them. So if our panelists would like to start just by introducing their name, what university they go to, and what program they're in. Who wants to go? Christy, do you want to take us off?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Lauren. Great having me here. Thank you for letting me join and speak. I'm Christy, and I'm in my 4th year doing a combined major in business and computer science at UBC. Yeah.
Awesome. Victoria?
Yeah, hi everyone. Super excited to be here. I'm in my 2nd year and I'm in the Waterloo Computer Science Co-op program.
Nice. Okay, sorry, my screen, everyone on my screen is in different positions and everyone's jumping around. Anika, would you like to go next?
Hi everyone, I'm Anika. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm in my 1st year at McMaster University in the Health Sciences program. So nice to meet you all.
Awesome. Michael V, would you like to go?
Hi everyone. First off, thanks for inviting me to participate in the panel. So my name is Michael. I'm in my 4th year at McGill studying biochemistry and French.
Awesome. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong, but Dewmini, would you like to go next?
Yeah, you got it. And hi everyone, I'm Dewmini. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm in my 2nd year at Western University and I'm studying medical sciences.
Awesome. And lastly, Michael T, would you like to go?
Hi everybody, my name is Michael. I am a 3rd year student at the University of Toronto St. George, and I am double majoring in immunology and genetics. And really glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, awesome. I believe that is everyone who will be speaking today. So we're going to start off with a couple of general questions. And this first question I'm very curious about because I'm a high school student myself. So can you explain what the transition was like from high school into university? Like, how are you feeling? What were the nerves like? Like, talk us through that process. Whoever wants to go, you can just start speaking and then the next person can add on.
All right, I can start us off. I'm sorry for the background noise. I'm on campus and it's very loud here. But I have like 3 pages of notes for you here. So this is very subjective, but personally, the transition was somewhat difficult for me. And it's not necessarily because the academic content was harder, because no, it's not harder. So uni slaps you in the face with a lot of freedom, right? There's no structure provided whatsoever. And compared to high school, you know, in high school, we had our days neatly tucked into periods. We had breaks and everything. So here you have total freedom to do whatever you want. And so I got overwhelmed very easily. And it's very easy to fall behind on lectures as well. So I had those piling up and I was like, okay, but I want to do extracurriculars. So yeah, right now I'm establishing a routine. So I'm getting better at it. But yeah, don't be afraid when you start off. For all my grade 11 and grade 12 friends, it's going to be a disaster. It's going to be like a catastrophe when you start. But once you get into it, just give yourself time to adapt and you're going to be fine. And also, I get attached to my past very easily. So it was so hard for me to let go of my high school, but we're still working on that.
Thank you for sharing. I definitely understand like having all this freedom and trying to navigate it, that probably would be very difficult. Would anyone else like to add on to that?
Yeah, I can add on.
Yeah, I can add on. Oh, Christy, you can go ahead.
Yeah, sure. You can go after me. Thanks, Victoria. So I guess like for me, I did struggle with academics a lot, unfortunately. I think there's a really huge steep learning curve that you have to overcome just from jumping to like high school into university, especially if what you're studying hasn't been something that high school has covered before. So I urge like for all the people who are looking into going into courses like computer science or things that need a lot more prereq, I really do suggest that if you have time and you're able to, maybe start looking at it before you go into university, so it's not as overwhelming. And like, it's definitely okay for your grades to drop a lot or to like fail a midterm, because it just happens to everyone. So just cut yourself some slack and set some tangible goals for how you can pick yourself up after that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So going into Waterloo Computer Science, I found that the jump from like high school courses to university courses was pretty challenging. And I did IB in high school. I took like IBHL Math, IBHL Chem, IBHL Physics, but I still found that like a lot of the math and computer science courses went super, super in depth. You had to learn like a lot of proofs, and it was very like a rigorous kind of learning. But like obviously the math, like every single course you take in university is going to start from the basics. So I think you just have to make sure that you're staying on top of all your stuff, doing all your assignments, and don't be afraid to go to office hours or ask your friends for help.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Okay, would anyone else like to add on to that question or share their experience?
Yeah, I can share. So my transition as well from high school to university was somewhat difficult to navigate. Like I found that not doing all your work on time really does slap you in the face. So you really have to be like planned, organized, make sure you organize your days and what day you're gonna do like each topic or each section of your work. And also it's feel free to use any resources. The universities have so many resources to help you, whether it's study guides, study tutors, even just like people you want to talk to about anything. Most universities would have those to help you to make the transition like a lot smoother.
Mhm. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Okay. If anyone has any final comments, that would be the time. If not, I'm going to move on to our next general question. Are we good to go? Oh,
Yeah, I can go.
Both Michaels want to talk. Michael, please.
Okay, sure. Yeah, just like a quick point, just kind of echo what other people were saying. It really depends, I think, on like your experience going through that transition will depend on what your last year was like in high school. So for me, I did the AP program at my high school. So in my very first year, I found a lot of the academics I was kind of surprised that it wasn't as challenging as I was led to believe, that I was going to be like, failing everything when I first started and it was going to be a disaster. So I think in that sense that the academic transition was kind of fluid, and it seemed to be like a gradual, and it got steeper over the years, but like it seemed like a very natural progression from high school to university. But for me, so I'm from Toronto originally, and I went to Montreal University, and I didn't really know, like virtually no one from my high school went to McGill. So I was kind of going there alone. And for me, that was the biggest transition, was like establishing this whole independent life, meeting new people. Like I grew up with the same people from junior kindergarten to grade 12. So that was the biggest transition for me. It did work out, in like the first month. Like I thought I was like not going to meet anyone and I was going to be all alone, but I did find some amazing new friends, and it all worked out in the end. So for me, that was kind of like the biggest transition to get through, was just like basically starting a whole new life in a new city, new environment. And with like academics happening at the same time, it can be overwhelming at first, but everyone's in the same boat as you, which is like what you should always remember. Like you're not the only one feeling anxious or nervous or things like that. So yeah.
thank you. Michael, if you'd like to wrap us up.
Yeah, I'll make myself brief so we can move on to the next question. But in terms of like saying something unique here, I'll try to say something here. So like creating your own schedule is hard, and like that's just kind of how it is. When you're in high school, you're used to having periods. Maybe you'll have like a spare, and that's cool. But in university, especially since a lot of people here are interested in STEM programs, you're gonna be faced with labs and lectures and tutorials. And that will present themselves as like large time blocks in your schedule. So you'll have to really try to prioritize finding what kind of system works well for you to spend those off hours, right? Maybe you're the kind of person that sets goals for the day, and you like having a really fluid sense of time that, you can move your priorities around depending on how you feel on what your work on what you're working. Or maybe you're the kind of person who likes to time block every hour, every minute of the day. Find out what kind of person you are and then stick to the system that works for you. But don't be afraid to try to kind of have like a trial and error thing going. And the same applies for study methods, but we'll probably get into that later.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone who shared, transitioning to universities. It's an incredibly personal experience based on, what you went through in high school and where you're going in terms of moving around. So it's really great that we get to hear from so many different perspectives. This actually kind of leads us into our next question. So what's your favorite part of school life at university? Can you talk to us about maybe like your meal plan, your dorm situation, your extracurriculars? Like, how does that differ from high school, and what do you like the most about that? Again, whoever wants to start us off, just feel free to hop on mic.
Meal plans are hit or miss from what I've seen. It really depends on where you go, even like what res that you get picked at your university. So I think the consensus is that it's expensive, and if you want to figure out how to cook and live on your own, then maybe don't do it unless you're forced to. But yeah, quality is hit or miss depending on where you're at.
Would anyone like to add on to that? Again, you could talk about anything from your university life.
Yeah, I'll add on it. Oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. You go, Michael.
No, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Sorry for cutting into people all the time, but I'll just talk a bit about extracurriculars. I thought, like, when I was in high school and I went to events like this, everyone said, join a club. And I always thought to myself, okay, that's just the generic response that everyone gives as like advice for students, but I think it's true. Like, joining a club really brought me a sense of community. And I wasn't in a club in my first or second year. I joined in third year. And once I was in that club, I felt like the people around me really motivated me to do more. And they really just like drove me to actually be the person I am today. They provided a lot of like help in terms of, during breaks, where do I go? Who do I hang out with? Like, I had all these people to talk to, and it was just like a nice vibe, and you have this purpose that you're at school, not just to learn, but also to like have fun and have a social life as well.
Thank you. Michael, I believe you were next.
Sure, yeah, just to offer like what I think for me was the independence that I got like going to university. That kind of trumps like everything else. I mean, the academics was great. Like I'm really happy to be studying like a field that I want to focus on and learn about, rather than high school where you're kind of, it's good to study all different kinds of subjects, but once you're at grade 11, 12, you kind of, I think for the most part, you start to realize what you want to study, and it's great to be able to just dive into that in university. But like I think for everyone, no matter what you choose to study or where you go, even if you're living at home as well, while you're in university, like the independence that comes with, like everyone else was saying, coming up with your own study habits. You're not really forced to go to class unless it's like a mandatory tutorial or something like that. Everything is pretty much up to you, and you get to decide how you want to go about doing things, which, I mean, that's like how the real world is going to work. Like no one's going to be guiding you on every step. So it's definitely something that I still enjoy. And that's why I love, being away from home as well. It's like the independence that you get, which I'm very grateful for, because at this age, like not many people can have that opportunity, but yeah, it's definitely the best thing, I think.
Thank you. I see we have some of our panelists raising their hands. Okay, Anika, would you like to answer?
Wait, I think Michael and Omar had their hands up before me.
Oh, okay. Sorry, everyone's different on my screen. Okay, Michael, take it away.
Just something brief, but I think a lot of us live for like the 4 a.m. conversations and the random interactions you have with your friends either on res or on a campus building at like the most random ungodly times of the day, or just like random conversations you have in between classes. Like these can add up into really meaningful friendships. And I think at the end of the day, at the end of my degree, besides like the education I receive and the paper, the diploma I get, it really is going to be about those conversations and those interactions I've had over the years that I'm gonna take home with me.
Perfect, thank you. Anika, would you like to answer next?
Sure. So I'll be quick too, but for me, it's extracurriculars as well. In high school, especially when I started off, I was a very shy kid, quiet, but then I think just putting myself out there and trying out for the newspaper team, the dance team, the choir, it really just fueled my growth so much. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do the same thing in uni and try to get the most out of it. And so yeah, I decided to run for first year representative. I decided to audition for our musical, and I have my first rehearsal today. So it's like you make so many amazing connections, as so many of our other panelists said, and I think those are just so wholesome and beautiful in a way. So high school students, please put yourself out there. No one's judging you, and everyone is in the same boat at the end of the day.
Awesome, thank you. Next on my screen, Dewmini, would you like to answer?
Sure. So adding on top of what Anika said, I found that in university, people are a lot more open to making new friends, new interactions with people rather than in high school, where maybe people have been more shy or like closed off. But yeah, in university, especially like if you join like a club or like a sports team or like any university on campus events you go to, you can just find like the most like open, like loving people, and they turn into like meaningful friendships for years to come.
Awesome, thank you so much. Okay, for our panelists, we're gonna move on to a bit of like a loaded question, I suppose. You could take this in. Sorry, yeah. Please keep yourself on mute if you're not a panelist. So, why did you choose your program at your university? What made you want to go into it? Just talk us through that. I know that you could probably talk a lot about this question, but I'm sure a lot of us are curious. Yes, Victoria.
So I chose my program, which was Waterloo Computer Science, just because of its unique co-op program. So one of the things that I wanted to prioritize in university was like having the opportunity to travel to a bunch of places. So for example, I'm in my first co-op term right now, and it's in my hometown, Ottawa. But then for my next co-op, I'm going to be moving to Toronto to work in their Amazon office. And then that's just like 2 out of my 6 co-op programs where I have the opportunity to travel to so many places. I know like a bunch of people in Waterloo Co-op have gone on to do co-ops in like New York, Seattle, even places in Europe, and also obviously California. So I think just having the ability to visit a bunch of different places and also pay off my tuition, gain a lot of exciting work experience was one of the aspects that made me choose my program.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, the next person on my screen is Michael.
Yeah, so I'm in biochemistry at McGill, and I guess the main reason why I chose it was McGill has a good reputation of being a very like research intensive university, and I knew sort of my last 2 years of high school that I wanted to go down the molecular biology, life science route. Didn't really know exactly where I wanted to like specialize in, but when I was kind of doing my research on programs, I found that the way that my program was advertised was that it was very central science to all the life science programs, which I still think is true to this day. Like part of my program, I'm taking classes in chemistry and immunology, microbiology, all these like all sorts of diverse areas. And you do realize that it all comes back down to like biochemistry, which is why I chose it. And in all my classes, we're constantly being exposed to the research that's being done today. And we get to take part in that research as well in your upper years. So that's sort of the main reason why I chose it. And then I guess I chose McGill in general because I want to continue French, which I'm minoring in. And it's sort of like the best environment, I think, because it's like a Francophone city. So if you guys are interested in like not just your main academic focus, but if you want to do things like language, maybe consider going to a city like Ottawa or Montreal, where there is like there's better chances for you to practice learning the language as well.
Thank you so much. Also, before we move on to the next panelist, if you aren't a panelist, please do not raise your hands. We are only here to hear from them. Anika, would you like to take it away?
Of course. Okay, so I chose the health sci program at Mac because it has a very self-directed, inquiry-based learning that really encourages like a lot of introspection and reflection. And that's something I love personally as a creator, as an artist, as a writer. I like reading between the lines and looking at the world in a philosophical sort of way. So I believe that health sci can really help me nurture that, along with helping me nurture my love for science. So there's a very profound way, very profound depth to the way we look at the fundamentals of science in this program. So it's not only just memorization and doing multiple choice questions. For example, we have these tests called no-cats, which are no correct answer tests. So that really push you to use your critical thinking, apply your basis of science and communication to biology. So I think that's kind of cool. And of course, at the end of the day, it does have a good rep for being a great pre-med program, even though faculty and staff would disagree.
Thank you so much for sharing. Christy, would you like to share next?
Yeah, so I'm actually doing a combined major in business and computer science, and I landed in the computer science part of it very by chance because I applied to the commerce faculty first, and there's like a specialization through there. But I think like I love this program a lot because I get to experience both the business perspective and the CS perspective of an entire business. So like, for example, right now I'm taking a course called New Venture Design, where I get to make a startup and they give us funding for the startup. So I come up with the business processes and I also develop the product, which is pretty cool. And I think a major plus for this program is you don't have to go through the actual like specialization stage in first year where like you look at your grades and they're like, oh, if you have this average, then you can get into this specialization. For my program, it's you apply during high school saying, oh, I want to do this combined major. And they put you into CS for sure. So you don't have to like fight for a spot there. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, who is next? Sorry, Dewmini, would you like to share next?
Sure. So I'm in my second year at Western Medical Science, and I chose this program because it's really unique. So when I was in grade 12 and like in high school, I wasn't exactly sure like what I wanted to specialize in. I knew I loved biology and chemistry and like sciences. And I was like, what specifically should I specialize in? So I loved this program because the first 2 years are like general medical sciences. So you take courses like basic biology, chemistry, biochemistry, and statistics, courses like that. And then in third year is when you actually specialize. So there's a whole bunch of modules you can choose, from pathology to immunology to medical biophysics, epidemiology. Like some of these words, like I know it's hard, it can be overwhelming, but I loved it because I can navigate kind of what courses I liked doing and then see what sparked my interest, and then maybe choose those courses for the next year and specialize in something I really love doing. Also, the research at Western, there's a lot of research opportunities. And also this program is mainly set up to do well so that you can perform well on the MCAT, which is like medicine prerequisite. So that's also a reason that I chose to go to Western.
Thank you so much. Anika, I see your hand is still raised. If you'd like to add on, go for it.
No, sorry, I forgot to put it down.
No worries. Okay, if anyone else has any final comments, that would be the time. If not, okay, perfect. I'm going to move on to our next question. And I feel like this might be something the audience is very curious about. So if you could talk to your grade 11 or 12 self, what advice would you give yourself about university? Like if you could kind of go back, knowing everything that you know now. Whoever would like to start off can just hop on mic.
I can start. So I would say definitely to start doing your research and starting projects early. So a big thing when looking for like internships and co-ops, at least in like computer science and engineering, is the amount of side projects you have. So maybe consider starting like a side project in high school and exploring your interests in CS and engineering, and maybe also attending a bunch of hackathons. So I think if you know what path you want to go down, getting relevant experience early is definitely a super big bonus. Maybe getting an internship after your grade 12 summer. I know that really helps when finding like your first term co-op or internship.
Thank you so much. Would anyone else like to add on to that? Yes, Michael, go for it.
I guess building on that note, I will provide the equivalent piece of advice for anyone with life sciences. If you have the emotional and mental capacity to take on another commitment, you have your social life and you have your study, your course, your academics, then try to do research, try to get your research experience, because first years almost never have research experience. So if you get research experience, it is a major like leg up in any future grad school or med school application that you may find yourself doing. And it gives you time to kind of explore what kind of research interests you, if research interests you at all. Or yeah, it kind of gives you a taste of what kind of fields you want to get into as well. And generally lab skills in the life sciences programs are pretty appreciated, especially, you'll even use them in your later year courses in undergraduate labs as well. So yeah, getting familiar with your taste for research and if you like it or not is pretty important. So I'd say for life science students, please try to get a lab experience early.
Awesome. Christy, would you like to add on to that?
Yeah, just some generic advice I found when I was in first year, second year. I spent too much time on academics. Like looking back on it, I really wish I spent more time hanging out with friends, hanging out with my family, and just focusing on my mental health as well. So if you're a student going into first year, second year, don't be so hard on yourself. Definitely give yourself some time to like relax, take a break, go for a walk. Those things are really important. And a lot of the time, if you make that time to exercise, it actually improves your productivity and makes you more efficient. So keep that in mind and make sure you're still having fun while you're at university.
Awesome. Thank you. Michael, would you like to add on to that?
Yeah, just on a very similar note to what Christy said, I think because I had COVID kind of hit right in the middle of my university career, it really made me realize that a bunch of different opportunities that I wanted to take or experiences I wanted to have that I may at the time I didn't really go for them. COVID kind of striking and ruining the middle of my university life really made me realize that if I could tell people like you guys going into university next year or in 2 years, where hopefully you'll have a normal university life and especially a normal first year, take advantage of all the opportunities that come your way. Whether it's like meeting new people, joining a club, doing something that's completely out of your comfort zone, definitely just go for it and do it and get the experience, because like if a pandemic can just come out of nowhere and stop that from happening, then like that's really kind of just shows you how you kind of take things for granted when they come to you. So yeah, definitely step out of your comfort zone and just do everything that comes your way and just try new things. That's kind of my biggest piece of advice that I wish I knew. If I had known that the pandemic was coming, I definitely would have done that more.
Awesome. Michael, I see that you still have your hand raised. If you want to add on to that, feel free to.
Oh, sorry. I forgot to lower my hand.
No worries.
But I do have more to contribute if no one else wants to speak. So there's quite a few questions on how do you find research and how do you find like lab experiences. There's a general playbook that gets preached at universities a lot, which is email profs. I disagree with this. This is actually not the most effective way to get research, because profs are very busy and your email will probably get forgotten or get never read or get piled up. And I think anyone who's emailed profs will tell you that it's like a 1 in 50 success rate unless you're really lucky. The more tried and true way to get research is to have a general research area in mind, like stem cells or robotics or whatever you have, artificial intelligence. Learn about the important concepts in those fields, and then find a lab that is working, or a research group that is working in that field. A good way to find that is to Google, like literally type into Google like the field. So the field you're interested in brackets, like or whatever the field you're interested, and then lab, and then whatever institution you want to work with. So maybe it's your university. So like if I was interested in stem cells, I'd say like stem cell lab U of T. or regenerative medicine lab U of T. And that will help you get like a lot of relevant results. And then you'll probably come across a lab page or a faculty page. In there, hopefully you should be able to try to find the graduate students and the postdocs of that lab. And these are basically members of the lab who are working on research projects for the professor. The professors themselves are rarely doing research. Usually, if you were to email a professor, they team you up with a grad student or postdoc. So if you go out of your way to try to find a graduate student or postdoc, you'll then get revealed the projects that are being worked in the lab. And you can now pick and choose in this broad area that you're now interested in. You have this lab, and now you can pick and choose a project that you want to work on. And then once you have that project you want to work on, read up about it, cold email the grad student or postdoc who's working on that project, and then CC the professor in that email. And make your email succinct, make it intentional, like be very clear about your intention of wanting to work with the lab. And and be sure to CC the professor instead of emailing them directly. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I feel like that's going to help out a lot of our viewers today. Is there anyone else who would like to add some final thoughts or comments? All right, if not, I'm going to move on to a question that is probably like one of the most stressful parts about applying to university. So do you have any tips for writing like an outstanding personal statement or having a great application in general?
I can speak about that. So I think for Waterloo, what you submit is like an AIF. So not sure what it stands for, but you basically put like a bunch of extracurriculars and contest scores, and then you write maybe like a short 50 to 100 word paragraph on like why you want to attend Waterloo. And I think something that is a super big boost in terms of like when you're applying, more specifically for like computer science engineering programs, is Waterloo math contests. So I think they have like Euclid, they also have CCC, they have Pascal format, and doing well in any of these competitions can be like a super, super big boost. I think especially important to do well in the Euclid, which is for grade 12 students, and also the senior CCC, which is a coding competition. So I think if you can do well in like these two contests specifically and also have a super good high school average, it'll really make you a competitive applicant.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yes, Anika, go ahead.
All right, so for health sci, we have something called a supplementary application, which has very open-ended questions, and it can be very stressful. But yes, of course, maximize your grades as much as you can, but the cutoff is 90%. So don't kill yourself and try to get like 99. You don't have to do that. As long as you meet the cutoff, you should start focusing on the sub-app. And so first off, I'll try to provide some concrete ideas. So first, emphasis, authenticity, and honesty. I think personally what made my app stand out was the vulnerability that I showed in my writing, because they have to read a lot of applications, remember that, right? So the more personal examples you can provide and the more vulnerable you're willing to be, the more you will stand out. And so for example, let's say you have to write about the topic of pain, right? It's very easy to be general and be like, oh, pain is experienced by everyone in varying ways. It's both physiological and psychological. That won't be enough. You'll have to show some critical thinking, and you would benefit from providing your own experiences with pain. And second, they like to really see your thought process in health sciences. So your words don't have to be fancy at all. It could just be like, okay, so I went from this point to this point because of this. So just be very specific with how you are thinking and show your thought process. Third, please use your voice. You do not have to mimic someone else's writing style. You don't have to use big words or complex phrases. As long as you can be genuine, that's going to be great. And yeah, I hope that helps.
Thank you so much. Yeah, okay. If anyone else would like to add on to that, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
So Western medical science doesn't specifically have a supplementary application. It only goes by the academic average of your grade 12 courses. But just as a tip for universities that need supplementary applications also, on top of like what Anika said and everything. So it is really important that you have like a good sense of community. So it's not just about like what you accomplish yourself. So for example, like I was a president of this club or I organized this event. It's more about how did you bring a group of people together? How did you help your community? And so it's more of like a we type of thing, not just you. So try to remember like the bigger picture in that as well when you're writing your applications.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. Would anyone else like to add some final thoughts to that? Okay. If not, I guess like a follow-up question to this very general question is if you could go back and kind of sit down and write that application again, what would you do differently? Obviously, you all were accepted into your programs, but if there were things that you could change, what would they be and why? Yes, Anika, go for it.
Personally, I try to plan it out better. So what I did was right when the apps came out, I copied and pasted all the questions. And on the first day, I was like, okay, let's sit down and do this. And then I put like 2 bullet points for each question and then I left it to like the month it was due. So and then I slept at like 4 a.m. trying to finish my app. So yes, I put a lot of effort in, but it would have been nice if I could spread that effort out over the few months that I had to work on it. So yeah, I would say work on the app a little bit each week and don't try to get it all done in one sitting because your mind will change. And what you write one day, and then let's say you come back to look at it the next week, you might not like it. You might think it's completely trash and then you'd have to start all over again. So just build it up.
Awesome. Thank you. Dewmini, I see your hand is raised.
Okay, so something I would have changed, probably same thing as Anika. Like I feel like a lot of people leave it until like the last few weeks that it's due. But yeah, so I would also consult like maybe other people, not just like something that it is your personal application, but getting help from like older siblings or like anyone who has gone through that process really gives you a different perspective of what the university wants to see written down instead of just what you think is like the right thing to write down per se.
Awesome. Would anyone else like to add on to that? Okay. If not, we're almost at the end of our session. We have about 5 more minutes left. So I guess we'll wrap it up with a question that might be applicable to a lot of the viewers here today. And that is in terms of like financial aid opportunities. So if you could speak to what financial aid or bursary, things like scholarships, co-ops, internships are available at your university. Yes, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, so I think the most important one for incoming university students at McGill would be the entrance scholarship, which doesn't require any sort of application. It's purely based on marks, which is pretty much the case for most things at McGill, including admissions for a life science program. It's just your marks that they look at. So if you're coming in as a first year, they will look at your combined average for all your grade 11 and 12 courses. And if it's 95 and above, then you're considered, and I think you can receive the entrance scholarship. So it definitely is like very difficult to get that. And if you're worried about your grade 11 marks, like some of my grade 11 marks kind of brought that average down, so I couldn't qualify for that in my first year. But McGill has a lot of other bursaries and financial aid available. So what you do is you basically fill out a profile on your like student portal with like your extracurriculars, your family income, things like that. And they will actually pair you with all these different bursaries that are given by alumni, families, or just from the school itself. And if you're also accepting things like OSAP as well, that increases your chances of getting financial aid. So they kind of pair you up with that. And usually it's very easy to get something, at least over $2,000 for a year, but usually it's more than that even, and it depends on your financial standing. And if you're also doing leadership roles or extracurriculars, that also plays a factor in them considering you to get more money. And we also have a work study program, which again is mainly for those with financial need, where you can apply for jobs on campus, like from things like from administrative work to helping do stuff in a lab or like library assistant, things like that. And they pay you more than minimum wage. And it's like based off a student schedule. So you're not like overwhelmed to work as well as doing your studies. So there's a lot of opportunities that I know of. It's really good to just email the financial aid and see what's available to you. You don't have to be in like the most dire of financial needs to be considered for something. And almost every year that I've applied, I've gotten pretty good bursaries from recognizing like my extracurricular involvement to COVID aid that they gave to most students. There's definitely a lot. So it's just a matter of like researching it. Emailing the financial aid office would be a great start if you're not sure of like what you're eligible to apply for.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Victoria, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, so for Waterloo, I think we have the basic like scholarships you're automatically considered for, like the ones that take into account your grade 12 graduating average. And then I think when you apply, you're also considered like automatically considered for a bunch of merit-based scholarships. And these depend on like your Waterloo contest scores, as I mentioned before, and also just how strong your AIF is as an applicant. And then of course we have our co-op program, which is a really, really big help in terms of like paying off your tuition, because like you can look up the average salary per hour on the Waterloo website, but generally like in your 5th and 6th co-op, you're getting paid like $50 to $60 an hour. And over the course of 4 months, that can be like a very, very big source of money. And that can definitely go towards your tuition and your rent. So I think taking advantage of like Waterloo's co-op program, or if not Waterloo's co-op program, different internships that are available can really, really help you pay off like any finances you have.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Christy, would you like to go next?
Yeah, UBC also has like the very basic scholarship. I think it's $5,000 for students who demonstrate academic and leadership achievements. And we also have something called a Centennial Scholars Entrance, which is $80,000. But this one is actually only for students who actually demonstrate financial need. And it's very based on strong academics as well. We also have a bunch, I think like there's 8 or 9 of diversity scholarships. So if you're like Indigenous person, if you self-identify as Black, if you're in like another minority, there's a bunch of scholarships that you should look into there. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay. It is 1:44, so we have about a minute left. If anyone has any final comments or thoughts they would like to leave us with, now would be the time to say them. Victoria, I see you have your hand raised. I'm not sure if you meant to lower that.
Yeah, I meant to lower it, sorry.
No worries at all. Okay. If no one has anything else to add, that is the end of our Canadian Universities panel. Thank you so much to all of our panelists for attending. We benefited immensely from your insight, and we were so thankful to have you guys here. On behalf of all of the audience, just a big general thank you. So next up, we have the breakout rooms. There are 4 breakout rooms, and those are going to be running from 1:45 to 2:30. In those breakout rooms, there will be a separate group of panelists that you can ask one-on-one direct questions to, I believe. So hopefully you all enjoyed that. I believe the breakout rooms should be opening soon, or if they're not already open, you can join them. I will let Annie and Yenny speak to that. I believe everyone is just going to their breakout rooms. Okay, in that case, thank you so much, and you are free to go. Bye, everyone.